So, hi, Kevin. What was your first computer?
My first computer was something before Windows existed,
Yeah, sure.
and it was. I connected it. The screen was a cord to the television,
Okay.
and it was really, and it had like memory of like 100K or something. Way less than the first Windows computer.
Okay. But of
So
course, what was it? Was it Commodore 64 or what was it? You remember?
I think it was a Commodore.
Okay, there was
Yeah,
64, obviously. Commodore 64K
yeah,
was 64K.
yeah.
So,
That's it.
what you did with the computer, you remember?
What I used that for was to try to be able to work on my Navy work and be able to type stuff into it. I worked on my Navy work involved a I had to do it on a early PC, which cost like $35,000
Okay.
for like having a half a meg of memory.
Hmm.
You had to pay 35,000 back then in the 1980s,
Okay.
and so I used it mostly as a text editor, basically, and then I would transfer the files onto my early PC.
Okay. So, back then, it was not a toy. So, you used the C64 as a text editor, right?
Yes, exactly.
Navy, I didn't knew that. So, what you did for the Navy back then?
Well, my work, most of my career, it's been mathematical modeling and data analysis. And so for the Navy, I was translating some Fortran programs into an early version of BASIC,
Okay.
and but then I was also writing new programs in BASIC,
Hmm.
which of course is not really valuable right now.
Okay, but
Um,
how you learned programming? I mean, because back then you said PC was like $35,000, and you had the C64, and obviously you could program before. So how you learned Fortran or Visual Basic? So what was your way to programming, or road to
well,
programming? Hmm.
when I was in college,
Hmm.
which was in the mid '70s,
Okay.
my college had PDP-8
Okay. Hmm.
computers, and I spent a whole lot of time in that computer lab
Hmm.
making either games or I made a program that simulated landing on a planet using the mathematical rules. So so and
So
I
now
simulated.
you could sell it as a physics engines, right?
Yes,
So you did
yes.
it 40 years ago, right? No, yeah,
Well, no. In college, it was like
45. So
1970.
yeah, so you said mid 70s, so it should be 45 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I can remember I used sine curves and cosine curves to create a landscape for which the capsule was supposed to land on. And if you landed on it too tilted,
Yeah.
then you
Okay. So it seems like you really like math, right?
yes, absolutely.
So
Wait,
how you
I
math,
don't.
how or when your math love started? You remember? So how you find out that math is actually really interesting?
When I was in college in the mid '70s, I discovered that math is a very good way of describing nature, the universe.
Okay.
That you could do math, you can sort of understand what the universe is. And
Okay.
I was a physics major as well as an English major, and I just realized that you can do a lot with math.
Give me an
It's
example. So I mean, you say this, it sounds interesting. Do you have an example?
well, um, a lot of stuff I've read, and this is a problem for me, that a lot of modern philosophy and stuff says that the universe is a machine.
Hmm.
And from physics, I could see that you can describe the universe as a machine, but it's not actually a machine. You know, um, that's the only approach we can have to try to understand the universe. And my work with the Navy and the Air Force, we're trying to use equations
Hmm.
to try to sort of like save soldiers, for example,
Hmm.
by by telling them, using mathematics to tell them what might happen an hour from now or a day from now. And if you can't really predict the future very well, but mathematics helps you do it a little bit, and like weather forecasting, they might get it right tomorrow, but but they really don't get it right a week from now. So what I realized is that mathematics lets you analyze patterns from the past and try to predict the future in a way that might help someone.
Exactly. I'm not a mathematician, but I always ask myself, that what we do, we try, to understand the world by creating a model. And the model gets better and better, but no one knows whether it's the right model,
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what most of my work has been. You have a model, it worked in the past. When it works less well in the future, you revise the model to try to compensate for what happened where the old model didn't work. I mean, that's the same way physics works, right? So Isaac Newton had a great model for how the universe works, but then 300 years later, Albert Einstein said, well, Newton's model is good in some cases, but it's not good in all cases. So Einstein came up with new theories. So that's the models work, until they sort of don't work. And that's why mathematics is so interesting, because mathematics proves that.
So what you said is that you try to find a mathematical equation by trying to learn from the past and applying to future. It always sounds to me like machine learning, right? So if you have a model, which is more or less a past or existing stuff, existing data, and what machine learning is, at the end of the day, the model is actually equation, a complex one, but equation, which it becomes a computer program. And if you give it new data, it tries to predict what happens with it. So this is more or less also the basis for AI and machine learning, right?
Yeah, and that's where the JVM is remarkable, because languages like Python, C, C++, they all, you compile them and that's it. But with the JVM, you have these just-in-time compilers that can optimize if they see that some section of code is suddenly being used a lot because of the change in incoming data. The JVM will optimize that code, which Python and C++ can't do. So that's where Java and the JVM really stands out.
Yeah. And so interesting. So you started with PDP 8. You learned programming, create your first in the world probably physics engine with your sinus curve lambda, right? This would be a great name for a game, sinus curve lambda. And and then you bought C64 as to have basic text editing stuff. What happened then?
Yes.
So you still were you actually a soldier, or what is it? You work for U.S. military, or how it works?
What happened was that it sort of was, I wasn't planning on it, but it ended up being that I was supporting my mother and my half siblings, and I needed to make money, and the job that I was able to get was working for the Navy with a company, a contractor company.
Okay.
So once that happened, it just sort of kept happening for my entire life.
Okay.
That was my work.
And where was it? Was it San Francisco, or where's the Navy? Or
no, it was in New London, Connecticut, which had a Navy. There's a submarine. They make submarines down there. So it started out there, and then it just kept going. I mean, like Bob Dylan was once asked, "Did you plan to be famous?" And his answer was, "I didn't plan anything. It just happened."
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of how it happened with me. I just ended up there.
So, but you spent your entire career at the military, so writing programs for military indirectly, I would say, through consulting companies, right?
Yeah, most of it. And then since I was also an English major, after Java was invented and I wanted to make more money, I started editing and writing books related to Java. And
that's interesting. Wait a second. One question regarding the military stuff, because interesting. If you can answer, I don't know about NDAs or whatever. What was the most interesting project at Army, Navy, or what you were involved in with programming? Or if you can talk about a few.
Um, uh, well, I mean, the work for the Navy was mostly mathematically modeling stuff that was, about sonar. With
Okay.
the with the Air Force, it was mostly making programs that were receiving massive amounts of data from satellites and trying to program that and make sort of like web screens that could be used by commanders
Okay.
to tell their soldiers if it was safe to proceed.
Okay.
That was, whether there were communications or not. And then the other thing was a lot of it was pattern recognition. So we had one satellite, MSX, that was all constantly scanning the surface of the Earth above China because we wanted to detect if they launched a missile.
Okay.
And if you launch a missile, then there's going to be a bright light in the picture.
Was it China or Russia?
It was mostly China at that point, but we were also studying like Afghanistan.
Okay, of course.
When under the Clinton years, and so the whole thing was pattern recognition.
Machine learning again, right? So right now we could use machine learning actually.
Yes, it's basically that.
Yeah, this is a different marketing term. And let's say the sonar stuff. You got the data and had to do something with it, or the algorithm was already done and you did some improvements. So was it like prior art what you did, or was it more optimization of existing stuff? I cannot just
well, basically, what I was doing was implementing theories from PhDs into programming, because we wanted to make it so that the theorists were not really great programmers. So like I had one program where the theorist delivered it to me, and it took 60 hours to run, and I had to get it. The 60 hours doesn't help soldiers, so my job was to get it, so it would run in like less than 2 hours. So a lot of my job was to optimize that code and so that it would be useful to military commanders.
But this is actually great because you had to understand, the PhD and math, and then translate the math to a running program.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe the math, the PhDs did not. They knew their science, but they did not know programming.
Yeah. Now, question to you, because you love math. So what I wonder myself is, if I see Java code, I can mostly tell what it does. So I can just read it, a little bit of thinking is okay, probably this and this happens. If I see a complicated math formula, it's not the case. So probably I could learn it, but if I just see in a book, a crazy formula, I say, okay, this looks just strange to me. Can you read just math? If you look at a formula in math, you know what happens inside, or you need to input some data and experiment with it, or so. What I'm interested in, it can be math read in the same way as Java code.
Well, I think that the math, if you're not a PhD or whatever in that area, you have to just trust it, because you have to trust that they know that what they're saying, is valid, and all you can really do is, but they don't know programming at all. So what you need to do is understand programming languages, and for example,
let's give me an example. Let's say we have acceleration formula. I tell you, this is a formula, is like a complex one, and it models acceleration on an, let's say, foreign planet or whatever. So now you can, if you look at the formula in math, will you know how it accelerates, or how the curve likes if you have a chart, how the chart will look like, or you will need to play a little bit more with that. So you have immediate feeling what happens inside the formula, or you need some more investigation?
Well, I think the case is that they give you the formula, and sometimes they give you the formula in code. Sometimes they just give you the formula in the white paper, and what you need to do, it's real time is important to try to make an application real time, and to do that, you have to translate the formula into code that is efficient, and so in the 1990s, I was working on.
So this was your job at the entire time, translating formula to code, not Java code to code, right? This is what it's interesting.
Not always Java, but sometimes.
Not Java, but to running Python, C, and whatever, right?
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's a great job. So it means you got formula from a mathematician or an idea, because what I can imagine that sometimes the formula you got was wrong, right? And you find out that actually it doesn't work because the code was executed, and you can prove that the formula doesn't work, right?
Exactly, because that's kind of how nature and physics works. You have a model, and then it works, and then something happens in nature, and the model fails to work. So therefore, the expert has to revise their model, and then you have to revise the code to to include the new. That's what I mean by Einstein changed Newton's physics, because Einstein figured out that Newton's physics doesn't work in all cases. So if you're helping these scientists create a model, or not create a model, but do something that uses their model, when they realize their model's no longer working, then you have to change your code to account for their opinion of how the model's better.
Have you provided feedback to the scientists and say, look, what you did doesn't work, you have to revise it? Did it happen?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Were they happy, or say, oh, no, impossible, my formula is perfect?
Most of the PhDs I worked with were actually happy to hear that here's a case where your model doesn't work. So can you work on and revise your model? And that's basically what happened. I mean, most of these people were nice people, and there are some, people with big ego. I mean, in science, they think, I know it's right. You don't know what's right.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, this is like a dream job what you did, right? So because you got, the latest research, and you could translate. This is actually fun. Translate it, for me, it would be fun. Translating theory to something executable. And it was also, I would say, a really demanding job, because you had to understand math, and you should be able also to code, right? I mean, this is like unique skill.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of fell into it. I was an English and physics major. I planned to write great books, great novels or something. But
Harry Potter, right? This was your dream, Harry Potter.
Yes, exactly. But it ended up happening, and I had great customers who wanted my work, and so I just kept working on it.
And how is it possible that you studied, you are English major, and also physics and math? You have
physics, which basically includes math.
Why that? I mean, why you did both?
I started out being mostly scientific, physics and math.
Yeah.
Then I started reading literature. So then I became English. And then at the end, I decided, well, why not do both?
Yeah, great. Actually, great idea. So completely unplanned, but it becomes more and more interesting to me. What is the book you read and influenced the decision? You still remember the book? You say, okay, this is the great book I have, to change my strategy right now.
Which are you talking about, English or or
literature? You say you started to read. You were involved in the literature, and then you decided to study English language. So which books you liked the most back then? So just titles. I'm just interested in.
I can give you authors easily. It was Shakespeare, James Joyce, and Dante, but it's expanded since then.
Joyce and Dante was like Dante was like he was a what's called Dante's older.
Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the early 1300s, the Divine Comedy.
Yeah. Dante,
Yeah.
Joyce, and who did the first one you dropped?
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. Okay. Yeah, Shakespeare is of course. So you read Shakespeare at you
Oh yeah, I had
during physics, Macbeth and all the stuff during the physics study.
Well, I just kept studying and like I've studying Einstein and the quantum mechanics physicists. I still go back and read Schrodinger's cat in the box, whether it's alive or not. So I love all of it.
Yeah, interesting. So and then you told me you wanted to earn some money and you started to write Java books. Was it right?
Yeah, I first started editing and technical editing, and then I wrote some articles, and then that sort of just kept going too.
When was it? 1995, 1996?
A little later than that, but not much later than that.
Was it for O'Reilly back then, or you started for?
Yeah, I worked for O'Reilly
from the beginning, or
WROX Wrox. Is that what
wrox, exactly?
Company is? Yeah. I did a lot of work for them, and then I was working with O'Reilly, and somehow me and you were in contact like 13 years ago. Somehow, I don't know how. Then I did Java.net was a huge period of time for my work in that regard.
You don't remember how we met?
May not.
It was because I remember exactly this how we met. You worked. You recorded probably one of the first podcasts for Java.net podcast, and you interviewed me at Java.net booth at Java 1 at Sun Microsystems time, and this was 2007. And what I did back then, you asked me about my sessions, and I think this was one of my first Java 1 sessions in 2007 about heating control, because I hacked my heating, and you wanted to know how I did it, and I explained to you, and you really liked my explanation. And for me it was very simple because my code was not complicated, but the impact was huge. It was just if else, and it was like primitive code what I did. So, and we stayed in contact because of that. And I just looked you up, and you worked for O'Reilly back then, and then I dropped in an email, and this was basically. So this is how we met. It was JavaNet podcast, one of the first podcasts at JavaNet booth at Java 1. I'm pretty sure it was 2007.
Now that you say that, I remember it.
Yeah. And so now what interests me, how you got there. So you started for editing books for wrox and for O'Reilly. And then somehow you attended the Java 1 as an editor, or what was your job there?
Well, what happened was that there was a period when I wanted to make more money. So I wrote a book. My wife and I wrote a book about MySpace, which is pretty old.
Yeah.
And then told O'Reilly that about that, and they said, "Do you want to work for us?"
Okay.
So I did.
And you work for them, and the company is Lyra Technical System. Is it a company? Lyra Technical System, I think, right?
Right. Yeah, that's me and my basically.
Okay. And what you did at O'Reilly?
What I did at O'Reilly is at first I wrote for them for AOL, and then I worked for them for Intel, and then I worked for them for.
But you worked for them. What you did for the companies? You created manuals, or what was the work? So you.
Yeah, it was basically blogging. And then I worked for them for BEA Systems. And I used to say a joke that every place I worked for, Oracle took over.
Yeah.
Like the sun.
When you worked for BEA Systems, you remember that? Which year?
That would have been, I don't know, maybe 2004, 2000.
Yeah.
No,
at the same time, I was elected for no reasons to be a BA technical director. And maybe we met again because I did a lot of projects with BA back then, and somehow BA, because of some question I asked, or I don't know what I did, but they asked me, "Would you like to become BA technical director?" Okay, what does it mean? Second, not a lot, but you are going to be invited to BA World Conference. It was in 2003, And I met, and there was like, briefing before the conference with lots of luminaries from Java.net space as well. So, and maybe we met the first time there. Exactly. But what I really remember is your name and conversation with you about the heating system, because it was my first Java one, and you wanted interview with me immediately. And I said, okay, then we can talk about that. And it was a really nice time.
Yeah, I think So I think we definitely were in contact earlier than we were in major contact.
Yeah. And okay, so you blogged for O'Reilly, and I mean you blogged. What it means? I mean, to blog you need some information. So you just studied Java and blogged about that, or what?
Yeah, it was they had an established blog with Sun, and it was like a series of projects where they wanted me to blog for BEA, then they wanted me to blog for Sun, then they wanted me to blog for Intel, and then Oracle took over Sun, so it just kept going.
So what it means is that there were engineers at Sun or BA or whatever. They had their content, their projects, and you look at the projects and blogged about the projects, right? This was a job back then.
Yeah, like I would go out to, I mean, for example, for Intel, I would go out to Oregon, where to talk to their their lead developers and get in, and so it was like I was basically interviewing people, then writing about it.
Do you remember a lady called Jen Heiss at Sun Micro?
Yes, absolutely. She was one of my best friends.
Yeah, she was great. So we also she interviewed me, and I wrote some articles for her, and she was really, really nice. She also started at Sun and then at Oracle. Now she's retired.
Yeah, she was one of my best friends for many, many years.
Interesting. So small world, actually, right? So really small world. If you think about this, how many connections you know, and the people around is really, really, really crazy. So what I didn't do, I thought you are working for Sun Microsystems, but you always work for O'Reilly, and you work indirectly. You spend your time at Java 1 probably to produce some more content, the podcasts, which were in 2007 was crazy. I think this was one of the first podcasts ever, I would say.
Yeah, it was a little scary for me to be doing podcasts because it's, my personality is sort of a little bit shy, but but I did it, and that was new back then.
Yeah,
and I did it.
Do you know that actually at the same time at Java 1, that Tim O'Reilly was actually a frequent guest at Java 1. So always at the keynotes, that Tim O'Reilly, I would not, who is CEO of O'Reilly probably, or the owner of O'Reilly, he spent a lot of time on the stage of Java 1, talking with Scott McNeely and the others.
Well, the O'Reilly is Tim O'Reilly is the founder.
Yeah.
So I spoke with him, and O'Reilly, I think they're still pretty major. I mean, I still see them publishing a lot of books.
I think on my desk right now, I have 10 different O'Reilly books right now, and they're getting better and better. And I still prefer paper because I spend all my time on screen. So I like still the paper, and the covers are looking great right now because there are the animals, they have some colorful touches, which was not true before. So now they reworked a little bit the cover, so they look great, and the quality is excellent. So I think 10 books is my on to-do list. I have to read right now. That's my problem.
I probably have at least 10 of their books.
On my desk in my basement, I have probably 100 of O'Reilly's book. This is my to-do until January of 2021. But so. Nice to chat with one of the editors, right? But I tell you one not that great experience with O'Reilly. So I think I asked you about a book for O'Reilly or something, but I had no time back then. And 1 year later, I got a contract from O'Reilly to write a book, and by another editor, and he read my manuscript and I said, okay, this is not true. It's like, this is true. No, it's not true what you are writing. So, okay, but I will like to keep this way because it is true. And then we had some, conversations, and then we canceled the contract because he said, okay, Java is no more that interesting. And it's okay. And then I published the book by myself, and it was the best decision ever, I would say. So this was actually a lucky accident. And the cool story is the same editor asked me, a few years later whether I would like to write a book for O'Reilly. So no, no more with you. But it's a personal, what happens, personal, I would say, not problem, like a challenge. But I self-published all my books because of that. So it was actually a lucky accident for me, because self-publishing is always good. And I hired some editors from US who actually edited the books. And I actually thought about to hire you to edit my books, but I couldn't find, the email. And so this was like, otherwise you will be in contact 5 years ago or 7 years ago and not, 13 years ago. Okay. So you worked for O'Reilly and you spent some time at Java Ones. So you know how many Java Ones you attended?
Well, at least 6, maybe 7 or 8.
And are you actually a Java developer?
I have written a lot of Java.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably written more C, C++, and Python.
Mm-hmm.
But enough that, I understand it enough. I understand Java and the JVM. I mean, my current interest actually is the JVM, because you have all these other languages that
Mm-hmm.
can produce bytecode, like Scala
Mm-hmm.
and Clojure. And it's like the JVM is an ingenious thing, because it takes care of different operating systems, right? You can write code, write once, run anywhere. But you can create code. I mean, I could create the Kevin language.
Yeah.
And make it so that the JVM could use it. I mean, that's an ingenious thing to me, compared with other languages like C, C++. You compile it, and that's it. With the JVM...
Yeah, but they already caught up. So there's like LLVM. So they have something similar, at least. But what of course, I'm also a very passionate Java developer, but the others have also something similar. But what's really interesting, I don't know whether you're aware of, Graal VM? You heard about that? Graal?
Yeah. Yes.
This is actually even more amazing, that not only it runs Java, you can run R, Python, interesting for you, R, Python, or JavaScript, and combine it with Java on one JVM and translate everything either to bytecode, or you can run it natively. So this is even more exciting. So I used it in a view of my project. It was interesting. So so what happened after all the Java ones? So Sun was bought by Oracle. What happened with you? You spent time at the army again, or?
Well,
sorry. What's really a pity that Java.net disappeared. So I mean, this Java.net was a really nice community. It was a nice content with contribution from the community, and it was even nice, URL Java.net. So I really liked that, and it just disappeared. So this is what I didn't got. So the entire project disappeared. This is what I understand, because GitHub and the others are available, but that as magazine, this Java.net magazine disappeared. This is a little bit pity, right?
Yeah, it's like it's very surprising to me. I mean, Fuji is sort of trying to become the new JavaNet, and all of my blogs from JavaNet were available on the Oracle site.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started writing for Fuji, suddenly all my blogs from JavaNet were no longer available on Oracle's site.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's like with Fuji, what we're trying to do is create a new JavaNet, and Geertjan is leading that. And we want to have people blogging, and so I think Fuji is great, and the person who hired me from Azul, my job is to support Fuji, but also to write blogs for their corporation. But it's like JavaNet. I don't understand why Oracle didn't care about it, but it seems like they didn't.
Yeah, what they did, they migrated it to code, the Oracle code. But what I never got is, for instance, also they renamed Java 1 to Code 1, which for me, I mean, Java, I like Java, obviously, but Java is a huge brand. So if I were Oracle, so they could just do the Code 1, but I will keep the Java brand. So they could have, the Java 1 and C1, Python 1, or whatever ones they have, or Oracle Database 1, under the hood of, or under the umbrella of Code 1. What we had at the Java 1 as well, we had a community day and whatever days we had. So there could be, like sub conferences, but they just get rid of the brand. So, which is a little bit pity, because from marketing perspective, I don't know. And the same is true with Java.net. They just to keep, just the Java.net moving. So there was not like huge effort to provide some content. It will be Java specific content. And the other stuff like Oracle databases or Oracle Cloud could be even on Java.net or somewhere else. So this is why I never got that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they started having Java 1 at the same time as Oracle World or whatever they called it, but they sort of felt like all that was really important for them was their own products.
Yeah.
Even though they used Java.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they didn't want.
Yeah, but what happened right now is that I would say the spirit of Sun Microsystems happens elsewhere, right? So what we have is Azul Systems, for instance. They have their own Zulu JDK, and they have community around that, and you create Fuji. Microsoft, they lots of Java evangelists are working on Microsoft and Google and Amazon. So it seems like the Java community spread around the world, and now we have support or content from everywhere. And so you mentioned Fuji. So what exactly is Fuji?
Well, Fuji is well, I see you have a meeting with Geertjan. Fuji, Geertjan calls it JavaNet 2.0. It's a site that.
Really?
Yes.
So interesting, because this was like an accidental idea what you said. I didn't knew that. So interesting. Okay.
Well, and it was like Azul hired Geertjan specifically to create Fuji, Friends of OpenJDK, and what it has blogs, but what it also has is ways for developers to see what's in new Java versions. Like, companies who have a major software built on Java 8, are not going to want to suddenly move to Java 15 because it could be risky. And so it has all the information on what's new in each new version. They're doing 6 months, every 6 months there's a new version of Java. What Fuji provides, in addition to blogs, is what's new in Java 15 versus Java 14, so that developers can look at that information and decide and CTOs, and decide if they want to take the risk of moving to the next version. And what Azul does is that security, Azul with their Zulu, if there's a security update, they backport it into their version of like Java 8. They backport security issues so that companies can use Zulu to be more secure. So it's very interesting what they do.
So for me, it's like the Fuji is more like community around OpenJDK, where they write about new features of the upcoming JDKs, because we are more frequent releases. So what I could expect as a developer, subscribe to Fuji News, and I will see, JDK 16 comes with this JEPs and these features, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Fuji is intended to be company neutral. It's intended to be for all Java JDK developers. Nothing. It's a little bit. It's intended to talk about all JDK developer companies. It's not. There's not supposed to be any marketing.
Yeah, OpenJDK, and this is actually a great news, because there is nothing like this. So there's Adopt JDKs, which is more or less a project which makes OpenJDKs more accessible, but there is not like a portal which talks specifically about the JEPs. And what I do is I usually go, to the OpenJDK website to see what's new, and I search for the JEPs. But such a portal makes absolute sense. I don't know whether you remember. At one point of time, there were JavaBlogs.com. You remember that?
Yeah.
JavaBlogs. Yeah. This was like an aggregator of all Java blogs, and that was shut down. I think it belonged to Bitbucket or some company, and they shut it down. Which was a pity, because it was also a nice way to start a day. Just look what's new in the Java ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, the point of Fuji is really all the information, say a year ago, about Java and the JDK is scattered all over the internet. So the
Mhm.
point of Fuji is to bring one place where you can go to see what's going on
Mhm.
with Java and the JDK.
And you
That's
become the editor again, so you will contribute content, or will you be the moderator, or what's the idea behind?
Well, what I am going to be doing is contributing some blogs. Geertjan is sort of the moderator, and but it gives me a good way to follow what's going on.
Yeah.
Way than having to go to 18 different sites.
Yeah.
So that's what. Wow, it's about bringing all the important information into one place.
Yeah, and Geertjan is a great guy, so I know Geertjan for years. I'm not sure whether, I think longer than you. I don't know, but Geertjan Wielenga is his last name, and he's the guy behind NetBeans. Actually, he was the great believer and how to call it, technical writer for NetBeans, and he was really passionate about that. So I would say if Geertjan becomes as passionate for Fuji than as it was for NetBeans, or still is, this is actually great news. So we get just another developer portal which just provides me condensed news around Java, right?
Yes, yeah. Actually, the latest book about NetBeans, I was technical editor of that book. So, and it could be that me being technical editor of that book, which Geertjan contributed to, might have been why when Fuji was invented, he contacted me and said, "Would you like to be involved with this?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to be involved with it."
Cool. So I will have to invite Geertjan as well and talk a little bit specifically about Fuji, and probably even know about the newest development in Java or OpenJDK. So just to pick up, because it happens a lot right now. It's like a renaissance in Java, right? So we get faster and faster releases and more features, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good that they're doing these scheduled 6-month releases, but people have to know what's in it.
Yeah.
So that's Fuji becomes important.
Perfect. So where people can find you? Do you have, what's the name of the company? Lyra Technical Systems, right? Is the URI?
That is my company.
Yeah, your company. Doesn't matter. This is what's the URI of your company?
Lyra Technical Systems. It was invented because I liked the constellation Lyra in the sky at night.
Okay. Okay, interesting. And so do you have a Twitter handle? Of course you have.
Kevin_Farnham, I believe.
I will check it. Kevin Farnham on Twitter. I'm checking right now. Not that we know.
Kevin underscore.
I see a very young Kevin, I would say. But Kevin, wait a second. Twitter. And do you have a blog, personal blog? No, I don't think you are writing.
No, not right now.
Kevin_Farnham. Kevin_Farnham at Twitter. Yep. Joined in 2009. Not bad. And CT, you're still in Connecticut. So CT is Connecticut, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Connecticut is the state. We're in a rural area. There aren't many rural areas in Northeast U.S., but we're in one of them.
Okay.
We have cows surrounding us and making the air sometimes smell.
Okay.
Because, but yeah. So okay, so you found it.
Yeah. So, and the Fuji? No, it's just take a look. The fuji.io is the page. And yes. There's already, just go there, and there's already some content from use query parameterization to prevent injection, and another one, time series analysis with software AKG. Oh, I know the guy, Johannes Weigand. And and there's Java version almanac. So there are all Java versions, Java 16. I just click on Java 16, and I see distro, Zulu, JDK, Java.net. Interesting. So it's literally like a portal to Java information, and it looks nice, and you can subscribe to RSS feed right away. So thank you. So what I would say, and there's even Raspberry Pi embedded in information. So so it was really nice. And what I really enjoy to conversation with you is the mapping of math to code. So this is a great thing. So the conversation, how you did it and how it works. And of course, I'm really looking forward now about tons of content from you contributing to Fuji.
Well, that's my plan.
So perfect. Thank you. And I will re-invite you back, next year, and we can talk about the recent JAPs and Java development if you like.
Yep. Very nice talking to you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.